river herring. And your proposal to lower the drawdown will definitely hamper their release to the ocean. Have you taken this into consideration? Because every time I ask why it can't be stocked with trout or any other species of fish, it's because it's a herring rearing lake. The federal government pays big money, along with the state of New Hampshire, to stock these fish into this lake because it's their natural habitat to spawn here. And when you hamper that drawdown in the fall, they can't get released. They don't have the time period. As a result, a lot of them stay in the lake and they get eaten by the predator fish in the lake all winter. Now the state is very concerned that they're going down, 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 the federal government, the river herring, which is stripers feed on, everything feeds on. So are you guys considering what you'll do by not drawing the lake down so they can be released in the fall? I mean, you've taken that impact into effect. And that you think they can still get out? Because I can prove to you right now that they don't all get out. No, I realize that. But a good majority of them, less will get out to go back to the ocean. So you ought to consider this. Thank you.
Okay, are there others that would care to speak that haven't spoken yet? All right, I'm seeing none. I will invite others that have spoken already to speak again, hopefully briefly.
You know, I'm glad that the state is interested in the water issues that are in our area, especially within the Lamprey watershed. But I would like to see an equal amount of effort put on the state side by having a permanent moratorium on large groundwater withdrawals for commercial purposes.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks, Mary. I saw this in first meeting afterwards. Thank you. Sorry that I can't remember people's names.
It's a very simple name. Bill.
Bill.
Could you give us, for those who don't have it, could you give us the address if people want to follow up and write you folks something? Could you give us the address, the direct address it should go to?
Yes, I believe that it is.
Well, emails as well as a specific address. People may want to respond in writing.
You want me to give that to you just right now?
Before you leave.
Okay.
We're going to be here.
Right. It is the Department of Environmental Services, and that is 29 Hazen Drive, Concord, New Hampshire, P.O. Box 95. Zip code is 03302-0095. It is on the website and the public notice that was issued. Liz?
Public notice that's on the DES website does not have the address to send comments to. The version that emails to me that we put on the town website does.
Yeah.
So maybe you can put the full hearing notice on
Yeah.
the DES website.
I have to apologize for that. I was under the impression until you pointed it out to me that the actual notice was posted. It was a summary of the notice that was posted. I didn't realize that, but yeah, the actual public notice, which is posted on the town's website and PLIA's website, that is the public notice, and that does have the address and I hope an email address as well.
Okay, so add that to the DES website?
Yes, ma'am.
A specific department or a Tier 2 on that address. You say DES, I can envision this going into a tunnel someplace. Do you have a specific department or person or organization that you'd add to that address?
If you would put it to my attention, Kent Finnemore, and that is also on the public notice.
Spell that, Kent?
Kent, K-E-N-T, and F-I-N-E-M-O-R-E. Sorry.
Does everybody have that, or
Yeah.
can we repeat it?
We'll put it on our website too.
Now, I'd like to add something additional to the record here. That was it tweaked my mind when people were speaking. And it's an important issue as far as the town of Nottingham is concerned. And then what that issue is, and I'm sure our select people would agree, is if our emergency personnel have to respond to a state park that was previously mentioned. But a couple of folks made reference to the fact there's going to be ice, the water's going to come up over the ice, it's going to be an issue. I believe a lady got up here and spoke to that. That means then that there's going to be an additional request for emergency services that we haven't had up to now. And my issue about some issues with the dams due to the pressure of ice, that's what that means. When we break it down to our nice little town, that means our budget, that means our real estate taxes aren't going down, they're going to increase. Now, I don't know to what extent you've given any consideration as to the effect of what you want to do affects the town of Nottingham. We've only talked in reference to the lake, which is most important to the town of Nottingham, believe me. But for the record, if you have given some thought in your database to that, I certainly would appreciate you posting that somewhere. Thank you very much for coming and being with us and way to handle it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. Jim.
Jim Kelly. So one of the things I said, one of the things many people have said is, show us the data. And so a gentleman came up here and said, is there a website I can look at that has the answers? And I sort of, under my voice, said no. But Mr. Ives said, send me your email address and I will send you information. So this is a question, but maybe what it is can we pass a piece of paper around with all the email addresses of all the people who want to get those answers, who want to see those studies, whenever they were done, whether they were done in 2011 or last week, so that we have a way to evaluate the data that you are basing your scientific theories on and basing this plan on. We haven't seen this data. If there's data, can we get it?
I'm sure we can.
Okay, if we give you our email addresses, will you send it to us?
I think that it may be very difficult for you to just see all the data. You've told me tonight that you haven't seen a lot of the information, or understood all the information you presented so far. So I can probably more simply talk directly to people. I don't know if that's what we want to handle. It's not up to me to make this decision.
Sure. I just am wondering, because what people want to know is, has the lake been studied? Has the impact on the lake been studied? Has the impact on the water quality been studied? And if so, what do those studies reveal? I mean, I don't need to look at all the numbers, but is there some executive summary? Can we just sort of get a sense of what you are basing this decision on? I mean, I just think if we could get more information, I think something Liz said is absolutely right. If you were better at communicating with us, we would maybe not be so irate tonight. So, anyway, I would like to send my email address to you, and other people would as well. We have geologists and biologists who are ready to evaluate. So, I'm done. Sorry.
Thank you, Jim. I see one hand, Pam, and another, Steve.
I don't have a lot to add, but I do remember that at the beginning of the presentation, we heard about how Fish and Game keeps calling them over at the dam to say, hey, when are you going to fix this? When are you going to do something? When are you going to change the drawdown? And what I would like to know is, what are the magic words that Fish and Game has so that they can cause this kind of a huge decision to be made without any evidence of the impact on the lake. I want to know, what did Fish and Game say? We have no idea. We have no idea, except that it was crucial that Fish and Game told us we need to do this, and don't worry, it won't have any impact on you. We've already studied that, and we figured that out. And none of us know any of this, from the beginning of why to the end of what will happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Pam. Stephen Landry.
Just want to say that there's been droughts and floods regardless of the dam being in place. I mean, the natural course of water, and there's thousands of streams throughout the state that have no dam control, and yet they go dry. Like the Lamprey watershed goes dry. It's a natural event. Fish die. There's a natural course of evolution here that the state is actually trying, they say they're trying to control, but we know there are other underlying reasons here, you know. And I'm curious to know is that from a technical standpoint, in the spring, like in the March of 2006, when we had floods, we had the water low at 7 feet. Does the state have a plan? So when the water's only drawn down 4.82, and we have the floods, does that mean the Lamprey River is going to flood? Because the Pawtuckaway Lake is a retention basin to handle a certain amount of water that is managed slowly. However, if we see floods, I mean, there's going to be floods, there's going to be droughts. It has no bearing whether there's a dam or not. And I wonder, Wayne, has the state looked at statistical information that if we took the floods from March of 2006 and we projected that on the Lamprey River, what would happen? I mean, we had the Pawtuckaway Lake and others as a retention basin to manage those floods in March of that year. Has the state looked at the overflow? Because does this mean now that Pawtuckaway Lake is going to get flooded because we don't want the Lamprey River to be flooded? So now our property is going to be in jeopardy to handle the backflow because we didn't draw the lake down enough to begin with. I mean, is that a question I can ask you? You have an answer for? Or do you know of a study? You may not know the specific answer, but has there been a study, something to that effect? There has. Is that on a website? Okay, so that information is internally kept. Why is that information not on a website or publicly available?
I guess at this point it'd be appropriate to give you a sense of the process here. We don't like to sit here and not answer it, but at the same time, what we're trying to do is receive testimony. And the most thoughtful way we can do that is to receive the testimony and then try to respond. The issue of flooding is absolutely of concern. Now, we are all under one roof at the Department of Environmental Services, but the Dam Bureau is tasked with conducting lake level investigations. Right? The Watershed Bureau, they have a different charge. Right? It is our job to consider, and I don't mean to keep saying I don't know the answers, but it is our job to answer those questions. So as we receive testimony, and I will do this again at the end of the hearing, but I encourage you all to submit written testimony in addition to what we've received oral testimony tonight. Right? It's easier for us to compile that, and it's generally in a more thoughtful presentation. It is our job to address all of those concerns. Flooding is absolutely a concern. I can say that in pretty fair confidence that the volumes that you're seeing that can be stored in a lake the size of Pawtuckaway, all right, when you have floods of the magnitude that we had in 06 and 07, it pretty much overwhelms a lake like Pawtuckaway.
Well, right.
So, I mean...
No, I understand. What I'm saying is that
for
the past 50 years, since the dams have been in place, there's been a track record. Okay? So now you're introducing over a 2-foot change without a track record of calculation. At least it's public available. And since that's not public available, there's no confidence. Because I understand that records are only kept so long, but this is not being handled. So when our properties get jeopardized, and the next thing you know, I mean, the 2006 and 7 were a lot for people to handle. There was a lot of damage. Well, if we add 2 more feet on top of that, I mean, and flood insurance ain't going to pay for it. And insurance in general is not going to pay for it. And my question is also from a Lamprey River standpoint, these low levels, that's not a spring low level. Am I correct? That's a later in the summer low level? Well, you're saying the Lamprey River doesn't have enough, it's not retaining enough water. It's not that you're looking to...
The winter release is for the winter period.
Right.
It's not,
so the Lamprey River, we're talking about the fish life throughout the summer for the Lamprey River, right?
we're talking about the winter drawdown.
The winter drawdown. Right. So how does that affect the Lamprey River later in the summer? It doesn't. Am I correct? Okay. Well, I think that's probably what they were trying to get to with the summer drawdown when they realized that there isn't enough water. And the spring has nothing to do with the latter part of the summer effects. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, Dee?
Yes.
Dee has yet to speak, but she did submit a card, so I'm going to recognize her first.
Dee Decker, 11 Lakeview Drive. I take exception to your comment that you just said to Stefan about winter drawdowns not affecting summer drawdowns, because if you don't flush the phosphorus in the wintertime, and then you do a bigger drawdown in the summertime when the water levels are lower, the water's going to be warmer, there's going to be more phosphorus, you're going to grow more plant life, you're going to reduce the oxygen, and we're going to have a cycle that is going to make our lake age faster. We have been in lakes in other parts of New England that have serious issues with with plant life. You can't even kayak through some of these lakes because the weeds grab the paddles of the kayak and you can't move. And Fundy is already very, very shallow. If we have dramatic growth in that area, you are going to shut down Fundy from anybody doing any kind of paddling or anything else back in that shallow area.
Thank you, Dee. Liz?
This is a question, and I don't know if you can answer it now or not, but I really would like to know what you plan for releases in the winter. I know the basic goal here is to store water, but will there also be releases, and if so, for what purpose?
Yeah.
I understand that Durham drains their pipe where they pipe water from the lamprey. They drain that in the winter to prevent freezing, and they start to draw water from the Oyster River instead, as well as the Lee Well. But what I'm wondering is, what releases could we expect in the winter, and what would be the purpose for those?
Thanks, Liz. That is definitely a question that would be more thoughtfully answered in a draft decision. So I don't know the answer personally.
It will affect the comments we submit.
Okay.
The winter release, there would be, when it happens, would happen based on the time of how long it takes for the Pawtuckaway River to decline below a certain threshold and to stay under that threshold for that period of time. There's one release and only one release available from the storage that we've provided for this winter time. So it would happen once and then not happen again. We have looked at the statistics and hope that that's sufficient to and we've looked at basically the comments from the public and recognized that raising the water level up somehow seems like a little bit of a bad idea to you. So in compromise, we've looked at only one drawdown per year, and that would change the water level at 0.65 feet. Because the water level is not at the full pool, that tenth of a foot that I talked about earlier is going to be bigger because the pool that it's drawing from is a smaller pool, so it has to draw it down further. So it would go from 4.82 to 0.65 feet less than that, and then it would not be lowered any further the rest of the winter. So, does that answer it?
Thanks, Wayne. Wayne. Sir? Have you submitted a card, sir?
Yes.
You did. Okay, thanks.
Okay, we've got the level of the lake down to 4.82 feet. Yeah, I said that right. And the ice comes, it's frozen. Now you're going to lower it down another 6 inches. So what that says, we now have a 6-inch gap of air between the ice and the water. Because the ice gets hung up in all the rocks over the shoreline, and now you've got a dangerous, very dangerous condition at a winter.
Thanks.
You can't change the level of the ice with the water. You gotta put it there and leave it.
John.
Again, Ken Sachs. My concern here is a mention of email addresses that we've given you, and then you would respond, or I got the impression you would respond to those email addresses. Yet each of us have come up here publicly for all to hear our questions. I think it would be most appropriate to get the answers publicly on your website. Answer these questions, and then we will answer. Did you hear? Did you hear? And wondering if each of us heard. And then it's kind of like break the group apart, so you just pick the hard ones and the other ones we deal with. So I don't mean to sound so adamant, but can you have a timeline for your project? Can you give us a timeline when we get an answer? Yeah, and so that's why we feel so empty, okay? I get a little emotional because I've asked questions like that before to groups who say, well, we don't really know what Bob over there has to do in the office to answer that question. And so we sit waiting to the 11th hour, as has been mentioned, to find out the answer. It doesn't give us an opportunity to respond. So I think, with all due respect, you, as employees of the state, should answer us so we have an opportunity to at least evaluate the data that you have given us. So if you can give us a date by the end of the night, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have any more cards. If there are others who would care to speak, I do see one more hand. Sorry.
Mark Carpenter. I don't know about you, but I am completely blown away by the amount of knowledge and experience that's behind me right here. When it comes to the lake. I think that you would really want to be in partnership with these folks. I mean, when I was in the business world and I was trying to sell my customers on something, I wanted to get their requirements, and boy, I'd like to have people like this as customers, because they know what the hell they're talking about. I'd like to make that comment. And then the second thing I'd like to do is, where the town of Nottingham is going to want a copy of the tapes that you've made and a copy of the transcripts. So who do we get that from?
you can request that from me personally, as presiding officer of the hearing.
All right, and how many days after this hearing will it be available?
I will respond to that as quickly as possible.
All right, you're going to hear from Charles out. All right, contact. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, yes, ma'am. You did submit a card. Yes, thank you.
I'd like to ask one thing. When you make this final decision, will that be an open public hearing meeting?
The issuance of the decision does not have a public hearing specifically tied with it. You can request that. That's something you could request in testimony.
I think that would be key to help all of the people here who feel so unjustly impacted by what you're doing.
Thank you. Does anybody else care to speak second time before Stephen does third time? Okay, Stephen.
I'm curious to know, since you know how this is going to proceed as far as going from draft to final policy and so forth, how do we fight this? I mean, should we submit a petition? If we oppose this and we disagree, since I'm assuming you're familiar how the appeal process, or even before the appeal process proceeds, if this group is totally against this, we may change our mind with more information, but given the information we have, it seems like we're going to totally oppose this. Can we file? What do we file?
You can file testimony in writing between now and the end of the comment period, which is July 26th. All right, stating your position or restating your position. The decision hasn't been issued yet, so we have to compile a decision based on the various factors, but also testimony that we have received. So there isn't a decision. It's not a done deal. So once the decision is issued, right, there is an appeal period, and that is the process.
Okay. I understand about the appeal part, and if we get to that point, it may take that. But in the interim, can we petition this before you make a decision?
I don't know that there's a mechanism specifically for petitioning. It is through
or some other
testimony.
Simple testimony.
Strength of testimony, yeah.
Okay. Is this testimony heard other than just being received by you and evaluated by you, or is there an independent authority that evaluates our testimony against your decision?
Well, the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Services authorizes the actual issuance of the decision.
Who do we address our testimony to?
It would be addressed to me, as is all other testimony that we've received tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Liz has requested to speak again. Is there anybody who has not spoken a second time that would care to speak? You see none, Liz?
Thank you again. I have one request, which is that the commissioner and you look very carefully at the 2000 decision. It enumerates many, many reasons why the 7-foot drawdown was seen as appropriate for this lake. And so the new decision, should you choose to change it, really needs to address why in each of those cases you think this is a better level for the lake to be at. Because it really represents a departure from what we've been told by DES during previous decisions, also from your own fact sheets about drawdowns on the website that talk about the benefits of drawdowns. And we certainly agree with what we've read in your own publications and in that decision. And so this would be kind of precedent setting to completely reverse what was said in the 2000 decision. So we would like to not just hear, what the decision is, but why each of those points no longer applies.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, further testimony. Sorry, Ken. Oh, John.
For the record, John Coyote. When we signed in, most of us put our emails there, and anybody that's in the room will probably still do that. When the decision is made, can we get a copy of the decision emailed to us?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, further testimony. And I'm seeing none going once, twice, 3 times. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing at roughly 9:37 p.m. And just remind you that you're definitely encouraged to submit written testimony for the record between now and the end of the comment period, which is right now at July 26th, 2012, 4 p.m. And I am going to adjourn this meeting, and thank you all very much for coming.